Hi everyone, in this session I will cover AWS EB, that is Elastic Beanstalk. So the agenda of this session is overview of AWS Elastic Beanstalk, introduction of AWS Elastic Beanstalk, what is AWS Elastic Beanstalk, architectural flow of Elastic Beanstalk, how AWS Elastic Beanstalk works, concepts of Elastic Beanstalk, Elastic Beanstalk Platforms, getting started with AWS Elastic Beanstalk, managing AWS Elastic Beanstalk application, managing AWS Elastic Beanstalk environments, and demonstration of AWS Elastic Beanstalk. So now let's move to the first topic, that is overview of AWS Elastic Beanstalk. Amazon Web Service comprises dozens of services, each of which exposes an area of functionality. While the variety of services offers flexibility for how you want to manage your AWS infrastructure, it can be challenging to figure out which service to use and how to provision them. So with AWS Elastic Beanstalk, you can quickly deploy and manage applications in AWS Cloud without worrying about the infrastructure that run those applications. So AWS Elastic Beanstalk reduces the management complexity without restricting choice or control. You just simply upload your application and Elastic Beanstalk automatically handles the details of capacity provisioning, load balancing, scaling, and application health monitoring. AWS Elastic Beanstalk supports applications developed in Java, PHP, .NET, Node.js, Python, and Ruby, as well as different container types for each language. A container defines the infrastructure and software stack to be used for a given environment. When you deploy your application, Elastic Beanstalk provisions one or more AWS resources such as Amazon EC2 instances. The software stack that runs on your Amazon EC2 instances depends on the container type. For example, Elastic Beanstalk supports two container types for Node.js. So first is 32-bit Amazon Linux image and another is 64-bit Amazon Linux image. So you can interact with AWS Elastic Beanstalk by using AWS Management Console, AWS Command Line Interface, or EB, a high-level CLI designed specifically for Elastic Beanstalk. So this is the simple introduction of Elastic Beanstalk. So we'll see the Elastic Beanstalk concepts in next session. Now let's talk about architectural flow of Elastic Beanstalk. To use Elastic Beanstalk, you create an application, upload an application version in the form of application source bundle. For example, if you are selecting the application of Java, then you have to upload .var file to Elastic Beanstalk and then provide some information about the application. So after uploading the application, Elastic Beanstalk automatically launches an environment and configures the AWS resources needed to run your code. After your environment is launched, you can then manage your environment and deploy new application versions. So here you can see that we have to create an application and we have to upload the application version. So Elastic Beanstalk launches the environment and after that you have to manage the environment. So if you are updating the version, you can update the version and again it will launch new environment. Here you can see that. So Elastic Beanstalk provides developers and system administrator an easy, fast way to deploy and manage their application without having to worry about AWS infrastructure. So this is the architectural flow of AWS Elastic Beanstalk. Now let's talk about Elastic Beanstalk Platforms. Elastic Beanstalk provides platforms for programming languages like Java, PHP, Python, Ruby, Go, and web containers as Tomcat, Passenger, Puma, and Docker containers with multiple configuration of each. Elastic Beanstalk also supports custom platforms that can be based on an AMI that you create and can include further customization. Elastic Beanstalk provisions the resources needed to run your application, including one or more Amazon EC2 instances. The software stack running on an Amazon EC2 instances depends on the configuration. In a configuration name, the version number refers to the version of the platform configuration. So these all are the supported platforms for AWS Elastic Beanstalk. Now let's talk about Elastic Beanstalk concepts. So here the topics are application, application version, environment, environment tier, environment configuration, and configuration template. Now I will show you all the topics practically on AWS Management Console. So open the AWS Management Console. So here you can see that the AWS services are divided into different categories. So in the compute section, you can see that Elastic Beanstalk. So open the Elastic Beanstalk. So here you can see that the list of applications which are present in this account. Now I will open this application. So basically, what is application? An Elastic Beanstalk application is a logical collection of Elastic Beanstalk components, which includes environments, versions, and environment configuration. In Elastic Beanstalk, an application is conceptually similar to a folder. So basically this is one environment in one application. So this is the application name. So like that many environment can comes. So this is one application which has one environment. Now I will open this environment. So click to the application. So here you can see that application version. Now what is mean by application version? In Elastic Beanstalk, an application version refers to a specific labeled iteration of deployable code for a web application. An application version points to an Amazon Simple Storage Service object that contains the deployable code such as Java var file. So here you can see that this is the S3 location where your application code will store. An application version is a part of an application. Application can have many versions and each application version is unique. So like that, this is the 1.0 version. So like that, there are n number of versions. Depends on the limits of Elastic Beanstalk. In a running environment, you can deploy any application version you already uploaded to the application, or you can upload and immediately deploy a new application version. You might upload multiple application versions to test differences between one version of your web application and another. Now let's talk about environment. So this is one environment of this application. So what is this environment means? So an environment is a version that is deployed onto AWS resources. Each environment runs on a single application version at a time. However, you can run the same version or different versions in many environments at same time. When you create an environment, Elastic Beanstalk provisions the resources needed to run the application version you specified. So like that, this is one environment for this application. So like that, you can create one more environment, so it will come here. And you can deploy same application version or different application version on different environments of EB application. Now what is mean by environment tier? So now let's go to the all application. So for creating Elastic Beanstalk, you have to click on create new application. Here you have to give the application name. So for now I am giving sample session EB and description is optional, and click on next. Now this is basically environment tier. So what is mean by this environment tier? So when you launch an Elastic Beanstalk environment, you first choose an environment tier. So basically either web server or worker environments. So I will talk these both the environments tier in detail in next session. So the environment tier that you choose determines whether Elastic Beanstalk provision resources to support an application that handles HTTP request or an application that pulls tasks from queue. An application that serves HTTP request runs on web server environment. An environment that pulls tasks from Amazon Simple Queue service runs in a worker environment. So basically there are two types of environment tier. First is web server environment and second is worker environment tier. So depends on the need and requirement you can pick up. Now again let's open the application. Now what is mean by configuration? So click on configuration. So an environment configuration identifies a collection of parameters and settings that define how an environment and its associated resources behave. So when you update an environment's configuration setting, Elastic Beanstalk automatically applies the changes to existing resources or deletes and deploy new resources. So here you can see that these are the different parameters and settings. So if you want to change the setting of scaling, so you can click on this setting option and you can change the settings. So like that you can change the setting, for instance notification, software configuration, updates and deployments, worker configuration, health and manage updates, and network tier. Now let's talk about configuration template. So configuration templates can be created or modified by using Elastic Beanstalk command line utilities or APIs. So these all are the Elastic Beanstalk concepts. So we'll talk logs, health, monitoring, alarms, manage updates, event. So we will talk all these concepts detail on AWS Management Console in next sessions. Now let's talk about web server environment. The environment is the heart of application. So in this diagram you can see that the environment is delineated by solid blue line. Here you can see that. This is the blue line which indicates that this is one environment of EB application. So when you create an environment, Elastic Beanstalk provisions the resources required to run your application. AWS resources created for an environment include one elastic load balancer. Here you can see that. An auto-scaling group. This is the auto-scaling group. And one or more EC2 instances. So here you can see that. So there are 4 EC2 instances. Every environment has a CNAME, that is URL, that points to Elastic Load Balancer. The environment has a URL such as myapp.yourregionname.elasticbeanstalk.com. So this URL is aliased in Amazon Route 53 to an Elastic Load Balancing URL, something like abcd-some number dot your region name dot elb dot amazonaws.com by using a CNAME record. Amazon Route 53 is highly available and scalable domain name system web service. It provides secure and reliable routing to your infrastructure. Your domain name that you registered with your DNS provider will forward requests to the CNAME. The load balancer sits in front of the EC2 instances, which are part of auto-scaling group. So here you can see that. So this is the auto-scaling group, and after that the request is coming from internet, so which comes to the Elastic Load Balancer, and after that it routes to the EC2 instances which are there in auto-scaling group. If the load on your application decreases, auto-scaling stops instance but always leaves at least one instance running. The software stack running on an Amazon EC2 instances is dependent on the container type. A container type defines the infrastructure topology and software stack to be used for that environment. For example, an Elastic Beanstalk environment with an Apache Tomcat container uses Amazon Linux operating system, Apache web server, and Apache Tomcat software. Each Amazon EC2 server instance that runs your application uses one of these container types. In addition, a software component called as Host Manager runs on each Amazon EC2 server instance. So I will show you the demonstration of Elastic Beanstalk using web server environment in next sessions. Now let's talk about worker environments. So here you can see that the architecture of worker environment. So there are 2 web server environment tier. This is the one. This is the another web server environment tier. AWS resources created for a worker environment tier include an auto-scaling group, one or more Amazon EC2 instances, and an IAM role. For a worker environment tier, Elastic Beanstalk also creates and provision an Amazon SQS queue if you don't have already. So here you can see that they have an SQS queue. This is the SQS message which is coming from EC2 instance. So when you launch a worker environment tier, Elastic Beanstalk installs the necessary support files for your programming language of choice and a daemon on each EC2 instance in the auto-scaling group. The daemon is responsible for pulling requests from an Amazon SQS queue and then sending the data to the web application running in the worker environment tier that will process those messages. If you have multiple instances in your worker environment tier, each instance has its own daemon, but they all read from the same SQS queue. So here you can see that the EC2 instance in one web server environment tier, and this is another web server environment tier which takes the message from SQS queue. So this is the typical architecture of worker environment. Now let's talk about getting started using Elastic Beanstalk. So the step number 1, sign up for the service. Step number 2, create an application. Step number 3, view information about your environment. Step number 4, deploy a new application version. Step number 5, change configuration. And step number 6, clean up. So let's see all the steps practically on AWS Management Console. So let's go to the AWS Management Console. So here you can see that the AWS services are divided into different categories. So in the compute section, you can see that Elastic Beanstalk. So open the Elastic Beanstalk service. So here you can see that the list of Elastic Beanstalk application which are created in this account. So these all are the Elastic Beanstalk application. And this is environment of this application. So now let's see how to create an Elastic Beanstalk application using AWS Management Console. So on the right hand side you can see that create new application option. So click on create new application. Now you have to give the application information. So to create a new application, you have to give the application name. So for now I am giving sample demo session EB, and you can give the description, depends on your requirement, and click on next. Now second is new environment. So AWS Elastic Beanstalk has two types of environment tier to support different types of web application. So web servers are standard application that listen for and then process HTTP requests, typically over port 80. And workers are specialized application that have a background processing task that listens for the message on Amazon SQS queue. Worker application posts those messages to your application by using HTTP. So here I am selecting web server environment tier. So click on create web server. Now you have to select the environment type. So choose the platform and type of environment to launch. So here you can select the platform. So they have different platform like .NET, Java, Node.js, PHP, Python, Ruby, Tomcat, Go, Packer, and pre-configured Docker and generic. So for now I am selecting Node.js platform, and here you can select the environment type, either single instance or load balancing. So depends on the need, you can select the environment type. So for now I am selecting single instance and click on next. Now application version. So you have to select a source for your application version. So for now I am selecting sample application. So if you have already application, so you can upload by using this choose file. If you have application in S3, you can select the S3 URL. After selecting the application version, click on Next. Now environment information. So you have to enter the environment information like environment name, and this will be your environment URL. So the last you cannot change. This is the region name and .elasticbeanstalk.com. So whatever environment name will be there, so the URL will generate depends on your environment name. You can give the description if you want and click on Next. And this is the additional resources. So select the additional resources for this environment. So either you can select create an RDS DB instance with this environment or create this environment inside a VPC. So for now I am not selecting any one of the option. So click on Next. Now configure the details. So you can modify the following details or click on Next to accept the default configuration. So default configuration is, so you have to select the instance type. So the Elastic Beanstalk will create the instance of this type. So which determines the processing power of the servers in your environment. And you can select the key pair. And you can give the email address. So for this email address, you will notified about any major changes to your environment. And here you can select the health reporting, enhance or basic. So here you can choose the root volume type, either magnetic, general purpose or provision. So I am leaving as it is and click on Next. So environment tags, you can specify tags, that is key value pair for your environment. So you can add up to 47 unique key value pairs for each environment. So for now I am giving name. So basically name is a reserved key. So you can give some other. So I am giving billing ID and value is 123456 and click on Next. So now permissions. So select an instance profile and service role for your AWS Elastic Beanstalk environment. So basically an instance profile is an IAM role configured for use with EC2 instance. And a service role allows the Elastic Beanstalk service to monitor environment resource on your behalf. So this role will be assumed by EC2 instance which is created by Elastic Beanstalk. And this service role will be attached to Elastic Beanstalk to create an application, for example EC2 instance. So I am leaving as it is and click on, so these are the default role which are provided by the AWS. After setting the permissions, click on Next. Now last step is review. So you can review the following information. So after reviewing all the details, click on Launch. So here you can see the status. Now Elastic Beanstalk is now creating your environment. So here you can see that the URL which is generated depends on your environment name. So here you can see that this is the environment name, and after that it is region name elasticbeanstalk.com, and this is the environment ID which is unique. And here you can see that the solution stack that is Node.js, and this is the container type. So here you can check the health, which is in pending state right now. And here you can check the recent events. For example, waiting for the EC2 instance to launch, created Elastic IP, added instance to your environment. Now here you can check the health status change to OK. If you want to check more events, you can click on Show All. So here you can see the all recent events. If you want to refresh, you can click on Refresh. So Elastic Beanstalk will create EC2 instance in the background, which takes some time to create. Now here you can see that the environment health has transitioned from pending to OK. Now here you can see that the successfully launched environment. Now we can use this link. So copy this link and paste on browser. So here you can see that this is the application which got deployed by Elastic Beanstalk. So basically this is the endpoint which is generated by Elastic Beanstalk, and this web application which is installed on EC2 server. So this is the practical demonstration of creating an Elastic Beanstalk application, selecting an environment tier and creating an environment for Elastic Beanstalk. Thank you. Now let's talk about managing and configuring AWS Elastic Beanstalk applications. So here the sections are: first is Application Management Console, second is Managing Application Versions, third is Configuring Application Version Lifecycle Settings, and fourth is Create an Application Source Bundle. So now let's see managing and configuring Elastic Beanstalk application in detail. So let's go to the AWS Management Console. So here you can see that the AWS services. Now let's open Elastic Beanstalk. For managing and configuration Elastic Beanstalk application, I already have a sample demo Elastic Beanstalk application. The first step in using Elastic Beanstalk is to create an application which represents your web application in AWS. In Elastic Beanstalk, an application serves as a container for the environments that run your web app and versions of your web app source code, saved configuration, logs, and other artifacts that you create while using Elastic Beanstalk. So I already have a sample demo EB application. So now first is Managing Application Management Console for Elastic Beanstalk. So the console displays a list of all the environments running in current region sorted by application. So you have to choose an application name to view the management console for that application. So I already have a sample demo session Elastic Beanstalk application. So click on Environment, which shows an overview of all the environments associated with the application. So here you can see that. So for this application, I have only one environment. Now you can choose the application version to view a list of application version for your application. Now you can choose a saved configuration to view a list of configuration saved from running environments. A saved configuration is a collection of settings that you use to restore an environment settings to a previous state or create a new environment with same setting. Now second is managing application version. So Elastic Beanstalk creates an application version whenever you upload a source code. This usually occurs when you create a new environment or upload and deploy code using Environment Management Console or EBCLI. You can also upload a source bundle without deploying it from the Application Management Console. Now third is configuring application version lifecycle settings. So each time you upload a new version of your application with Elastic Beanstalk Console or EBCLI, Elastic Beanstalk creates an application version. So like that, whenever you upload any application version, Elastic Beanstalk creates an application version. If you don't delete the version that you no longer use, you will eventually reach the application version limit and be unable to create a new versions of that application. So you can avoid hitting the limit by applying an application version lifecycle policy to your application. A lifecycle policy tells Elastic Beanstalk to delete application versions that are old or to delete application versions when the total number of versions for an application exceeds a specified number. Now go to environments and click the environment. Now fourth is create an application source bundle. So when you use the AWS Elastic Beanstalk console to deploy a new application or an application version, you will need to upload a source bundle. So your source bundle must meet some requirements like it should be consist of single zip file or var file. So you can include multiple var files inside your zip file. It should not exceed 512 MB. It should not include a parent folder or top level directories. So these are some points of managing and configuring Elastic Beanstalk application. Now let's talk about managing Elastic Beanstalk environments. AWS Elastic Beanstalk makes it easy to create new environments for your application. You can create and manage separate environments for development, testing, and production use. And you can deploy any version of your application to any environment. Environments can be long-running or temporary. When you terminate an environment, you can save its configuration to recreate it later. As you develop your application, you will deploy it often, possibly to several different environments for different purposes. Elastic Beanstalk lets you configure how deployments are performed. You can deploy to all of the instances in your environment simultaneously or split a deployment into batches with rolling deployments. Now here the sections are: first is environment dashboard, second is environment management action, third is configuration, fourth is logs, fifth is health, sixth is monitoring, seventh is alarm, eighth is managed updates, ninth is events, and 10th is tags. So let's see all the topics practically and conceptually on AWS Management Console. So open the AWS Management Console. So in the compute section, you can see the Elastic Beanstalk service. So open the Elastic Beanstalk, and here you can see that all the Elastic Beanstalk application which are created in this account. So I already have a sample session EB. So click on the environment. Now first is environment dashboard. The main view of an environment management console is the dashboard. Within the environment management dashboard is an overview which shows the environment health, the application version, and the information about in-use platform, and a list of recent events generated by the environment. So here you can see that the recent events, and here you can see the health, and here you can see the running version. So you can click the refresh to update the information. Now second is environment management action. The environment management console contains an action drop-down menu that you can use to perform common operation on your environment. So here you can see that this is the menu which shown on the right hand side of environment under create new environment option. So first is load configuration, save configuration, swap environment URLs, clone environment, clone with latest platform, abort current operation, restart app servers, rebuild environment, and terminate environment. Now third is configuration. So here you can see that. So this is the configuration of the environment. So the configuration page shows the current configuration of your environment and its resources including EC2 instances, load balancer, notifications, and health monitoring settings. So use the settings on this page. So here you can see that. So use this setting option to customize the behavior of your environment during deployments. So use this setting on this page to customize the behavior of your environment during deployments, enable additional features, and modify the instance type and other settings that you choose during environment creation. So if you want to change the instance type, so you can select the instances, and here you can change the instance type. Here you can change the security group, key pair, instance profile, AMI ID. So like that you can change for auto scaling also. So this is about configuration. Now let's talk about logs. So the logs page lets you retrieve the logs from the EC2 instances in your environment. So when you request a logs, Elastic Beanstalk sends a command to the instances which then upload the logs to your Elastic Beanstalk storage bucket in Amazon S3. So basically this is the option to request the Elastic Beanstalk logs. So like that you can request last 100 lines logs or full logs. So I'm selecting full logs. So when you request logs on this page, Elastic Beanstalk automatically deletes them from Amazon S3 after 15 minutes. So here you can see that the logs got generated and you can download these logs. You can also configure your environment instances to upload logs to the Amazon S3 for permanent storage after they have been rotated locally. Now let's talk about health. The health page shows live health information about every instance in your environment, if enhanced health monitoring is enabled. Enhanced health monitoring allows Elastic Beanstalk to closely monitor the resources in your environment so that it can access the health of your application more accurately. When enhanced health monitoring is enabled, this page shows information about the requests served by instances in your environment and metrics from the operating systems, including latency, load, and CPU utilization. So here either you can filter by the health like OK, pending, info, unknown, or you can check the instance action, either reboot or terminate. Now let's talk about monitoring. So this is the monitoring page. The monitoring page shows an overview of health information for your environment, including the default set of metrics provided by Elastic Load Balancing and Amazon EC2, and graphs that show how the environment's health has changed over time. So you can use the option on this page to configure additional graphs for resource specific metrics and add alarms for any metric supported by the in-use health reporting system. Now let's talk about alarm. The alarm page shows information about any alarms that you have configured for your environment. You can use the option on this page to modify or delete alarm. So for now there is no alarm for this environment. Now let's talk about manage updates. The manage updates shows the information about upcoming and completed manage platform updates and instance replacement. These features let you configure your environment to update to the latest platform version automatically during a weekly maintenance window that you choose. Now let's talk about events. The events page shows the event stream for your environment. Elastic Beanstalk outputs event messages whenever you interact with the environment and when any of your environment's resources are created or modified as a result. So here you can see that all the recent events. So this is starting event, that is create environment is starting. So like that you can see each and every event depends on the time. Now let's talk about tags. So the tags page shows the tags that you applied to the environment when you created it. These tags are applied to every resource that Elastic Beanstalk creates to support your application. For now I have only one tag, that is billing ID, and value is 123456. So these all are the conceptual information about environment dashboard, configuration, logs, health, monitoring, alarms, manage updates, events, and tags. Thank you. Now let's talk about advanced AWS Elastic Beanstalk environment configuration. So when you create an AWS Elastic Beanstalk environment, Elastic Beanstalk provision and configures all of the AWS resources required to run and support your application. In addition to configuring your environment's metadata and update behavior, you can customize these resources by providing values for configuration option. For example, you may want to add an Amazon SQS queue and an alarm on queue depth, or you might want to add an Amazon Elastic Cache cluster. So most of the configuration options have default values that are applied automatically by Elastic Beanstalk. You can override these defaults with configuration files, saved configuration, command line options, or by directly calling the Elastic Beanstalk APIs. The EB-CLI and Elastic Beanstalk console also apply recommended values for some options. You can easily customize your environment at the same time that you deploy your application version by including a configuration file with your source bundle. When customizing the software on your instance, it is more advantageous to use a configuration file than to create a customized AMI because you do not need to maintain a set of AMIs. When deploying your application, you may want to customize and configure the software that your application depends on. These files could be either dependencies required by the application, for example, additional packages from the yum repository, or they could be configuration files such as replacement for httpd.config to override specific settings that are defaulted by AWS Elastic Beanstalk. So these are the advanced configuration for Elastic Beanstalk environment. Now let's talk about AWS Elastic Beanstalk limits. So by default, you can create 75 applications in your account. So this is the default limit. So you can upload 1000 application version in one Elastic Beanstalk application. And there could be 200 environments per application. So these all are the default limit of Elastic Beanstalk. Thank you.